Now, within the next 10 minutes or even less, we are going to talk about two concepts. We are not going to talk about them in details. All that you are supposed to know at this time is their meaning, what they mean. What they mean. We are going to look at two related concepts in respect of privatization. These are nationalization and indigenization. So what is nationalization? I've done this diagram here. Now the first thing you need to know, once we say zation, then we are looking, it's a process. Department, if you have departmentation, then it's a process. So zation, all those things, we are looking at the process. So when you say nationalization, you know nation or national. So nationalization. So it's a process. Look at privatization. Privatization too is a process. And in that process, you transfer state-owned enterprise to private individual. The opposite is the nationalization. In nationalization, you go through a process to transfer private ownership and control. You transfer private ownership and control of companies or industries to state ownership and control. Private ownership and control to state ownership and control. For social reason, for political reason, or for economic reason. So when you say nationalization, it is a process of transferring private ownership and control of industries, company to state ownership and control for political reason, for social reason, and for economic reason. If you want to read more on this, you can Google and then you read more on this. But for now, this is all that you are supposed to know about them. We are not going to talk about advantages, disadvantages. No. Your syllabus doesn't require that. Just you have to know what they mean. So that is that. Then the next one is indigenization. It comes from the word indigens, citizens, indigens. So then you see you have the idea what is meant by indigenization. Indigenous products. So indigenization. If you understand these things, then you understand what is meant by indigenization. What do? You use law. You don't do it by your emotions. You use law. You have to establish law. So if you look at it here, I've written here example of indigenization. I'll come back to this, but I want you to look at this. An example of indigenization in Africa, and we are looking at the Zimbabwe or the Zimbabwean example. Now, during the time of President Robert Mugabe, in 2008, specifically 9th March, he signed a law, and the name of that law was Zimbabwe's Indigenization and Economic Empowerment Law. Zimbabwe's Indigenization and Economic Empowerment Law. So, indigenization, economic empowerment, empowering whom? The citizens, the indigents. So, this law was established to the effect that they transferred the ownership of foreign controlled industry or foreign owned industries into the hands of the indigenes. So the indigenes took over more than 51% of the foreign companies. That is all that indigenization is all about. So you need to go to parliament for law to be passed. So when the law is passed, then you use the law to do the transfer. In all that indigenization is about is that the government wants to promote industrialization. But the government wants to involve the indigenes, the citizens, in the promotion of industrialization. It is good to industrialize. Foreign people can come in to establish industries for the production of whatever they want to. But the government wants to promote industrialization. But he wants to allow the citizens, or more citizens, to be involved in that industrialization process. But so they will take the companies that belong to the foreigner and then hand over to the local people. And that is what Mugabe did. So we say in indigenization, you are using law to make citizens, that is the indigenes, participate actively in the industrial sector of the economy. Remember, we have learned that the economy is divided into sectors. So you can have the commercial sector, you can have the industrial sector, you can have the agricultural sector, and so on and so forth. So you want the citizens to participate actively in the industrial sector of the economy. But they may not have the financial base to establish one themselves. So the government will use law as to whether it is good to do that or not. That one is up to you to do your own analysis. Then many of the industries will be transferred into the hand of the citizens. So that is what is meant by indigenization. And I've given you the Zimbabwean example. And I said it allowed them to take control or ownership of many industries in Zimbabwe. And we are talking about 51%. So that is for that one. And you said it was under President Robert Mugabe. So if you look at this diagram too, I said in the industrialization, the government wants to promote industrialization. So industrialization is promoted through indigenes. And then foreigners. Please, it doesn't mean that the foreigners, when you are talking about indigenization, it means that it should be completely the indigenes. No, the foreigners will also be part, but the indigenes will take greater percentage. So if you look at this diagram, you see that this shaded portion where I have written indigenes is bigger than this one. So it is to tell you that it is the citizens, that the indigenes and then the foreigners combine. But the indigenes take greater percentage. So this from here to here is greater than from here to here. So that is for that one. So that brings us to the end of our lesson on public cooperation. Please, if there is anything you don't understand in any of the 5 videos, ask questions. And remember, you are supposed to make comment for me to know that you have actually watched the video. You like or dislike it, depending on whether it was good for you or it was not good for you. If you have not subscribed to, you need to do that. Our next topic will be stock exchange. Stock exchange. So you have to read your notes on the public corporation. Now, stock exchange is not in your book 1, it's in your book 3. It's supposed to be Form 3 topic, stock exchange. From stock exchange, we also talk about sources of business finance. The reason is that even though they are Form 3 topics, we have learned about companies. We learned that companies, public companies can sell shares at the stock market. If that is the case, then why don't we learn stock exchange? So that is the reason why we will learn stock exchange after the forms of business organization. Then whilst we are learning about the various forms of business organizations, we also talked about sources of finance. And source of finance, which is an aspect of financial management, is also in Form 3 topic. It's a Form 3 topic. So if you have learned about source of finance, then please, it will be appropriate for us to learn that one too. So we'll be learning these 2 topics before we come back to your book 1. So take note of that. I will try to see whether I can make another video on public corporation where I will ask you, I'll give you some questions that have ever been asked. So that one will be purely questions. So take note of that. Till we meet again, it's bye-bye.